Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am Daz. I've got Steve with me and we're back for a nice little chit chat about this season's preview is Neil Jones from goal.com. Hiya Neil.
Hey guys, you okay?
Yeah, good. Transfers. Let's get into this crazy world of transfers. There's talk of Brewster. This 20 million out of nowhere. You think that's real, or is it just rumours again?
Well, I think it's something that can change quite quickly in transfers, and I think a lot of it just depends on what's actually out there, concrete in terms of offers. You know, it's easy to say, "Oh, player's not for sale," but if someone comes to your door and brings a firm offer, then you sort of your mind can change pretty quickly. I think that the important thing to say about Ryan Brewster is I think Liverpool rate him pretty highly. I think they do see that there is a potential first team player there, but I suppose the key word in that is potential, and you know it's whether he is able to fulfil that potential in the manner that Liverpool need him to. So can he do that by playing the odd game here and there in the League Cup or wherever, coming off the bench, you know, every so often in the Premier League, or will he need to go out and be playing regularly for a different club? And if he is doing that, is that what he wants? Does he want to be playing for Aston Villa or whoever, you know, Wolves or Newcastle or wherever he may be going? So I think you have to factor in a lot of those things. And I mean, my personal opinion is I think Liverpool should keep him around the squad. I think he is useful enough and good enough to be an option this season, especially with so many games coming up and so many competitions that Liverpool are going to be having to compete in. But like I say, if a club, and I haven't heard anything to say that a club has yet come up with £20 million or any permanent bid. As far as I'm aware, it still is very much just a link. But if a club is willing to do that, then I think Liverpool would be wise to consider it, given that it would effectively be money for a player that isn't at the moment contributing to their on-pitch success.
Yeah, because I've noticed Klopp has said, like, you know, he doesn't want to loan players out. He wants to actually just sell them, like the Harry Wilsons.
Yeah.
And also the transfer saga with Thiago and Gini's going on a bit too long. And now I'm hearing this morning that Klopp's having a sit down today with Gini to kind of go over stuff. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's today, and I don't know if it's a sort of. I don't think it's quite as dramatic as that maybe sounds. Like, you know, a summit meeting between them. I think it's clear that there will need to be some discussions between the club and the player, because even if Liverpool are saying nothing's going to happen, then the player is still in the last year of his contract, and that does affect players. We've seen it in the past, you know, with other clubs and with Liverpool, that when you've got a player winding down his contract, it gives them an excuse. It gives them a reason to maybe not be as consistent. Sometimes it can work the other way. It can actually give them a reason to play even better. But I think you would want to be on top of that if you were a manager and if you were the club. You'd want to be knowing where the player's head's at, knowing what he's thinking and how it's affecting his mindset or otherwise. I mean, if you'd have asked me a month ago, I'd have said it was probably unlikely that Gini Wijnaldum would leave Liverpool, and I think it should be unlikely, because I think he's still a very important player, and I think he would probably only be appreciated by a certain amount of people associated with the club. I think he'd only be appreciated once he wasn't there, and you saw the difficulty that Liverpool had replacing that kind of midfield balance that he provides. But I think it is looking increasingly more likely that at the very least Liverpool are going to have a fight on their hands to keep him, because Barcelona are going to make a move. You know, Ronald Koeman obviously is a huge fan. Has worked with him with the national team. I think he sees it as a potentially quite a shrewd move, given they've just lost the midfielder. They're going to lose. They've lost Rakitic. They're going to lose probably Vidal. I think he's going to go as well. They're going to have to find someone there, and if they've got someone like Wijnaldum, who the manager knows, the manager trusts, and play a couple of roles in midfield, then it would be quite a shrewd signing. But again, it comes down to what's money on the table, and are they going to pay what Liverpool think he's worth? And judging by some of the stories I've seen linking him with £15 million and that kind of thing, I think that's very, very, very skinny for someone of Wijnaldum's quality, regardless of how long it's left on his contract.
Yeah, and also like this Thiago thing, because Liverpool usually keep a lot of stuff under wraps. Michael Edwards kind of swoops in. So Thiago has been going on for what, 2-3 months now.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any weight to that as well?
Yeah, I don't think you can't ignore that there's something behind it. I mean, we know where it stems from. It stems from Germany, and it stems from pretty much the Bayern Munich dressing room. I mean, that's the way the story seems to have emanated from. Thiago saying his farewells, and I saw the guy who obviously seems to be at the head of the story, Christian Falk from Bild, saying that he was offering his house out to teammates and that kind of thing. So that's obviously where the talk has come. Liverpool, for their part, have given nothing, and they have kept it under their hat. If they are signing Thiago, they're not telling anyone about it. It does look, if you were looking at it just in pure layman's terms, you'd say Wijnaldum out, Thiago in, roughly the same sort of price. It's everyone's a winner type of thing. But I don't think there's any guarantees that he'll be coming yet. I don't think Liverpool have, as far as I'm aware, they haven't been making any moves to Bayern Munich. They haven't been in contact with him. With the club. But as we see, I mean, there's still plenty of time left in the transfer window. What is there, about a month left? Just a little less than a month. So I think you can see that there might be a knock-on effect if something happens with Wijnaldum, then you might see that suddenly gather pace. But I don't think it's fair to say that there's nothing in the Thiago story. Just maybe that it's not quite as nailed on as some people may think.
Hey Neil, I wanted to ask you that because for many fans, it seems like this Thiago is an upgrade to the team, right? And where the other part of me says, hey, we have a system. Klopp has a system. Genie's been in that system for all these years. Is that a definite upgrade? Because we've seen how long it takes to bed into Klopp's system. Can you give us some thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the system is king for Liverpool, isn't it? And you look at the way that they've evolved from, let's say, 2018 when they reached the Champions League final, and they were really sort of they were quite wild as a team, and the front three tended to dig them out of a lot of holes, and they'd win games 4-3, or what did they win at that semi-final? They won 5-2 and then 4-2, I think, so 7-6 on aggregate in the Champions League. And the way they evolved then by buying obviously key players in goal and Van Dijk at the back and Fabinho was to become more solid and use the fullbacks a lot more, and the midfield became facilitators for that. So they became really important, that they filled all the spaces that the attacking players and the fullbacks gave up, and they allowed Liverpool a sort of real solid platform to go and play a bit higher up the pitch and play forward. If you take one of the parts out of that, and we've seen it really, with Liverpool, where when Oxlade-Chamberlain's played or Keita's played, that they haven't quite looked the same. And they might have looked a little bit more threatening, or they might have looked a little bit more exciting at times, but they haven't really looked as solid and as well organised in midfield. And that shows how difficult it is to maybe play that role. And someone like Wijnaldum, someone like Jordan Henderson, Fabinho took a couple of months to really find his form. James Milner is pretty much able to plug in wherever you need him, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Now, Thiago's probably a different, a different case to a lot of midfielders, in that he's a fantastic footballer on the ball and is able to do a lot of the things that you want from a midfield player. But he's also been at two clubs where tactical discipline and tactical nous is valued more than anywhere else. He came through at Barcelona, and he's thrived at Bayern Munich, and he's played under some coaches which you would think should have prepared him pretty well for playing in a Jurgen Klopp side. But that's no guarantee. Still, we've seen. I remember Manchester United signing Juan Sebastian Veron a few years back, and thinking, wow, who's going to stop Manchester United with Veron adding into that side? And it didn't quite work out. We've seen Liverpool make signings in the past where you thought, how can that one fail? And it did. I'm thinking of Harry Kewell or someone like that, or other people even Morientes, people like that in the Rafa Benitez era. So there isn't a guarantee with any sign. What I would say is that, if Liverpool was somehow able to keep hold of Wijnaldum and add Thiago, then you would be, I think you would be giving it the Michael Owen celebration and rubbing the hands together, because that would be, a fantastic upgrade to an already fantastic side.
Well, do you think Liverpool might wait till January for him then and get him on a free?
Possibly. I mean, I imagine. I mean, it would be remiss, wouldn't it? You would say, if you were looking at it, it would be remiss of all European clubs if you were going through a summer where Thiago wants to leave, seemingly wants to leave, is willing to leave him, and the price is not absurd. It's not cheap, but it's not absurd either. It would be remiss of all of the clubs to sort of ignore that, and you would expect that somebody at some point might make the move for Thiago, whether it's Liverpool, whether it's Barcelona, whether it's Manchester United, Manchester City, whoever it may be. But if it got to the stage where October the 5th, Thiago, I could easily see a situation where Liverpool do wait a year. It does run the risk then. I think he would be 30 come then, and I don't know how much that literally changes. I mean, I think that's more of a media construct than a football world construct. The idea that when a player gets to 30, everyone just sort of goes, "Oh no, let's not go there." I think if you want the player, you want him, and you think he's got 2 or 3, 4 years left in him, then it doesn't make a difference whether he's 29 and a half or 30. But I think it's more likely, personally, I think it's more likely that Liverpool sign him this summer than the next summer, purely because I think the competition will be greater.
I want to ask you about the emotional side of starting a new season. If you recall that after we won the Champions League, we had lost the title by 1 point. There was so much excitement going into the new season, and we only spent $1 million or £1 million during the transfer window on Vandenberg, and Man City they spent about 140 million, and we still had this excitement, like we were going to take the challenge on and we're going to win the league. Here we are a year later, we've won the league, and now it seems like a lot of people are just, we're not going to even get close. We finished 18 points ahead. Manchester United, they spent 140 million last summer, and they dropped like how many points? 12 points. Or no, they stayed the same. I'm sorry, 66 to 66. So I'm trying to figure out why is this just a change of perspective this year?
Yeah, I suppose it comes back to an idea that when you chase something for a long, long time, there is, I think there's naturally a lull, isn't there, at the end of it, and you think back to your sort of whatever it is that motivates you in life, whether it's a relationship or a job or a new car or whatever. You will have that sort of, I've got this job, I've got this car, I've got this new coat, or whatever it may be. But come a month's time, when you've worn it every day and you've sort of, you've driven it every day or whatever, you will have that feeling of what do I do now? What's next? And I do think that's going to be quite important. I think it probably doesn't play into Liverpool's hands, the situation surrounding the game, that there's no fans in the stadium, because I think really if Liverpool were kicking off their season on Saturday with a full Anfield, the first time new season with the badge on the shirt and champions of England, and the defence starts here, you can rebuild that excitement, if you like, and that optimism, and that maybe you can play into that idea of being the underdogs again, because I think Liverpool have thrived on that idea that City are the ones that you've got to, City are the villains that they've got to catch, and they've got to beat them at the end of the season. And I think you can still play into that, but I think it's harder to do it when there's an empty stadium and you go in and it's not quite, you can't ride that sense of emotion as well or as easily as in the past. So I think that's going to be a big challenge for Jurgen Klopp. I don't necessarily see that his players will drop off in their mindset, but they might not just get that little turbo boost that you get from a packed Anfield when it's 1-1 with 15 minutes to go, and you've got, you just get a little reminder from the Kop that, hey, come on, we need this 3 points or whatever. I think that might be the one of the issues that Liverpool have to deal with. But I completely agree with you. Look, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of talking about social media too much, but I mean, I have had to limit it an awful lot with over the summer because it just grates a little bit that, you know, well, what do you want? What do you want out of life? You know, you want Liverpool to win the league, okay, but Liverpool, they haven't played the game yet, and they're already. I mean, I saw one today saying that they'll struggle to make the top four and this kind of thing, and you just it does feel going into the new season that there's a lot of people already in quite a negative mindset, and I don't understand why, because, you know, I still look at the squads, I still look at the teams, and I still say whoever finishes above Liverpool will be champions, and, you know, there's no guarantee that anyone will.
Yeah, I'm still on a high from years, and you know, this squad hasn't changed. You know, we have probably the best manager in the world that can motivate me, you, Steve. He's going to motivate these lads again. You know, so yeah, I just don't understand the head exploding syndrome that's happening. You know, and also, like, with the transfer stuff, FSG have been doing this for 10 years the same way. They're not going to change. So I don't understand all the kind of negativity towards them as well. It blows my mind.
I mean, it's unusual, isn't it? Because, you know, you look and you say, I think fans don't. They're really willing to sort of put the trust in a younger player, because it's seen as sort of, you know, a lack of ambition, isn't it? You know, so if you to say, if a player leaves, he always needs replacing, doesn't he? That's the way people look at it. You know, Lallana has left, so you have to replace him. You can't tell someone that Curtis Jones will be the replacement, because it's seen as, well, no, because Curtis Jones is only 19 and he's not played many games. As opposed to if you said Liverpool were signing Curtis Jones, who's come through Bournemouth or wherever, you know, then that would probably be a little bit more about it. You can't say that Minamino is going to be a player, you know, a real potential option, because he only cost 7.25 million. And, you know, if Minamino was now at Salzburg and didn't have that release clause, and Liverpool were pursuing it was a 35 million pound signing, then that would be ambitious, wouldn't it? So I think you have to take those things into consideration. You can't talk about Keita as being because he's already at the club, but you're talking about Liverpool spending another 30 million pounds on a midfielder. There's a 50 million pound midfielder there in Keita that hasn't yet had a full season of impact. You know, he's had little bits and bobs, and I think he looked particularly good in the back end of last season. But I think you have to remember that for all that there is, I still think there are some needs within the squad potentially. So I think centre back probably is the main one for me. But for all that there are some needs, there are also some potential areas where you could just glean 5%, 10% more out of certain players, and that would make a massive difference to Liverpool. I think Jones, Keita, Minamino in particular as three, potentially Brewster as a fourth if you need someone, you know, off the bench. I think they're actually quite exciting additions potentially to a title-winning squad. But when you say that, it's not as exciting as it is saying that you're going out and bringing in X, Y, and Z for £100 million and, you know, bringing in 4 or 5 new faces.
You know, yesterday we saw the best center back in the world score a pretty nice goal for Croatia. And so, you know, I was always a Lovren fan, and not everybody, he wasn't their cup of tea. But do you feel comfortable with them? It seemed like having Big Billy as the number 4 coming through, or do we need to get somebody with some more experience as the 4th?
Yeah, no, I think Liverpool do need to sign a centre back. I've nothing against Billy Cometio again.
Sure.
You know, I think there's a little bit of evidence that he might well become a very good player for Liverpool, and, you know, the same could really apply for Keanu Hoover and Sepp Vandenberg. But I think one thing that Dejan Lovren had and has is experience and the ability to have very, very good games. And I think that was the biggest frustration with Dejan Lovren, was that Liverpool fans saw how good he could be, but they also saw how bad he could be. So that was his weakness, was the difference between his top and his bottom was too big. You know, whereas someone like Joel Matip is sort of is good and is bad, whereas Lovren's is very, very, very good or very, very bad. I think Liverpool do need to bring in someone that can can play games, because I think you have to look as well and say that Joel Matip misses a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he played about 12 or 15 games last season in all competitions, which, you know, if he's your third choice centre back and he's unavailable, well, what's the point? You know, and you've got Joe Gomez, who had a particularly good season in terms of his appearances. I think he got over 40, but that's the first time in his career that he's managed that, and so he also has a track record of missing parts of the season. Yeah. So I think when you throw in the idea that Virgil van Dijk is so important, and you don't really want to be sending Virgil van Dijk out in the FA Cup third round against Carlisle or whoever you're playing, you don't want to be sending him out in the Carabao Cup. You could do with not playing him in the last Champions League group match if you've already qualified. You know, it would be nice, I think, if Liverpool did have an extra body in there. I don't see at the moment, personally, anyone in the squad apart from, and it's not an ideal scenario, apart from Fabinho, as someone who you'd want to be playing at centre back in an important game in the league or the Champions League. Yeah,
it was interesting to me that they're getting overtures for Nat Phillips to be sold, and I was like, man, I'd have him as the fourth option over Billy. Not that Billy's not going to be a good player one day, but right now he has an experience as being a starting center back in a major football league. So yeah, that was interesting to me. Yeah, I think that'll go out either on loan or maybe even a permanent deal. You know, unfortunately, again, probably a little bit as much for him as anything else that he's 23, coming up 24. He's quite young in his development terms for a 23-year-old, because he's only played, I think, 30 odd games. He played for Stuttgart last season. He played one for Liverpool. He's not got the level of experience that you would say for a 23-year-old. Let's compare him to, say, Marko Grujic, who's the same age and has well over 100 games, or Harry Wilson, who's well over 100 games. You know, even someone like Shea Ojo, I think they have an awful lot more football behind them. So I think probably from Nat's point of view, maybe it is the right thing that he goes out and plays rather than sits and waits. And, you know, for all that I'm saying, Joel Matip misses games. You know, sod's law for someone like Nat Phillips is they hang around banking on that, and Joel Matip plays every minute of every game, and, you know, no chances come. So I think it is a difficult one for that, and it makes it hard to recruit for Liverpool. You know, you either have to buy, you know, a gun youngster for a lot of money, which is unlikely, I think, for Liverpool at this stage, given the club situation, or you have to buy a sort of experienced, you know, someone like a Ragnar Klavan, who came in a few years back and was happy to be fourth choice, but was capable enough to play, you know, 10, 15 games if needed. So it's a tough one, but I think Liverpool would be wise, personally, to try and rectify it somehow.
Yeah, Phil Jones is available.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather go without a fourth centre back if he was the last straw. So I guess let's get into the preview for the season. Big season opener against Leeds.
Yeah. It makes me sad a little bit, because obviously it would have been a really good game, that, wouldn't it? You know, you think of a full Anfield of 5:30 kickoff and live on TV and all that, and you think, God, that would have been a real nice opener to the season. That, you know, I think it would have focused Liverpool as well, because I think they'll be aware of Leeds, obviously, and I think they'll be wary of what they might be able to do. But I think imagine having all those Leeds fans packed into the Anfield Road end and cheering them on, and, you know, all that. I think that would have made for a really nice atmosphere and a really nice game. So it does make me a bit sad that it's going to be behind closed doors. But I think it's an interesting one, personally. I think it's probably the best game of the weekend. I would suggest to watch. You know, Tottenham Everton, maybe, in terms of the closeness of the clubs, in terms of their ambitions. But I think Liverpool Leeds is a pretty good way to start the season.
Yeah, that would have been a great one to watch, just because of, you know, how long they've been away from the Premier League and the history that they've had in the past. So yeah, that I was looking forward to, you know, seeing a packed Anfield as well for that. But you know, right now I'll take whatever I can get when it comes to footy.
Absolutely, as long as the game's on, as long as, you know, we're not going back into the April and May territory, as long as there's some kind of football. And, you know, fingers crossed. I'm sure you guys are in the same position as us, but fingers crossed. We're all just hoping gradually, bit by bit, slowly by slowly, we can start getting back to any kind of normality, if that's possible.
Is there any update on Hendo? Will you think he'll feature this first game?
He's been training this week. He joined in full team training on Tuesday, I think, which is always a good sign. I would probably edge towards him being on the substitute bench to start the season. Obviously, big long season and a lot of games coming up.
Yeah.
And Chelsea second up as well. So I would suggest he'd probably be on the bench, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see midfield of Fabinho, Keita, probably Wijnaldum, who's played a lot of football. You've still got Milner there. I'm sure nobody would be more excited about playing against Leeds than James Milner. So, I'm sure he'd be chomping at the bit, and I would imagine his training level might even be even higher than it normally is this week. But yeah, in terms of Henderson, I think he's fit, but I wouldn't be penciling him into my starting lineup just this time. Just probably a week more.
Yeah, that second game of the season against Chelsea is a huge marker already early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then Arsenal after that as well. So you've got sort of Liverpool started last season obviously with such an incredible run, and the momentum that built up. Same the season before. When they went toe to toe with City, and they were right up there. From the way go. I think they've seen the importance of a good start and the difference that can make from it. So I would say if they were to take 7 points from the first 9 games, that would be, a real good marker for them. Of course, they'll be greedy. I'm sure the fans will be greedy. They'll want 9.
We're never greedy about these things.
Yeah, obviously, the season's going to be tough. I don't think there's going to be a 18-point gap. Obviously, like last season, but yeah, the first three games, I think you want that as a player. You want the tough games, like first.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I do always think that. I mean, I suppose you can. I don't like you said. I don't think you're going to lose the title in September, October this time around. Whereas City were fighting a losing battle really from November with Liverpool. I don't foresee that personally this season. I think the amount of games and the sort of the lack of real normal preparation time and that kind of thing, I don't think that will enable teams to really sort of put together these incredible 25 match, unbeaten runs or winning runs or whatever it may be. But I think you'd always say, wouldn't you, you'd rather get to April and know that you don't have to go to Stamford Bridge, I think, than know that that's coming up on the horizon. So yeah, that is always a positive. Liverpool haven't, they haven't really struggled with anyone, have they? They have. When you say they've got a good record against them, they've got a good record against pretty much everyone, probably, over the last couple of seasons. So they have no reason to fear Chelsea. They have no reason to fear Arsenal. They have no reason to fear anybody. So yeah, if they can, as I say, if they can start with half the sort of quality that they started last season, I think they'll have a good chance of taking on anyone. And like you say, I mean, we're talking about Liverpool having no real new signings. Chelsea have got quite a few. And that can go ways. It can be a sort of, a real boost for them, and it can just send them on a bit of a crest of a wave, or it can be a little bit disjointed, and you can see sort of a little bit of uncertainty about where certain players fit in or what system they're going to play, which ones are really stepping up and making a difference. They've got a lot of players competing for a lot of positions, and especially in the forward areas. You think of plenty of Werner, Abraham, Giroud, Pulisic, Mount, Havertz, Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi, Loftus-Cheek, Barkley. I've just named you 10 players there, and you can only play 4 of them probably. So there are going to be some teething problems, you imagine, for a squad that big. So maybe getting them second week of the season when they're still figuring out their problems might be better than taking them on in the spring when they're on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Everybody's trying to compare every team now with Chelsea, how much they've spent. But how are you going to keep those 8 to 10 players happy? That's the thing. Yeah,
absolutely, and you see the difficulty as well of, you talk a lot about, people talk about a lot rotation and replacements and things like that. But if you're asking, let's just say Hudson-Odoi, who was sort of really touted as going to be a superstar, wasn't he? Only a year ago, Bayern Munich were trying to sign him, and he was going to 35 million. They were going to give him an awful lot of money to stay and that kind of thing. And if you're asking him, okay, we want you to deliver on your promise, but you're only playing 15 minutes this week, then you're not playing at all the week after. Then we're going to start you at home. It's a big test for a player physically and mentally as well, because I think one of the big strengths of Liverpool has been that they've been able to keep those players happy enough that they're able to come in and contribute. You think of Origi, for example, or Shaqiri. You think of Lovren when he was at the club, or Adam Lallana, who were able to just they weren't happy sitting on the bench, but they understood it, and then they were ready, and they were drilled, and they were prepared to play the way that the manager needed them to play. The bigger the name, the harder that is to do with a player. And if you've got a player like Timo Werner who's being told that, Tammy Abraham's going to play for a couple of games here and you're going to just watch and then we're going to bring you in, then it becomes more and more difficult. And, you're relying on them being both excellent players but also real good characters as well. And, there's no reason to suggest that they're not, but it will be interesting to see which of those types of players, which of those start to make the noises in the international break and say, I wish I was playing more football, or I'm determined to play myself into the starting lineup, or look, I might have to look elsewhere if I'm not getting games. You will get that. We've seen it with clubs like Real Madrid in the past. They really, really stockpile players, if you like, in those, or have done in the past. And as soon as sort of it's not going the way of one, you start seeing those little ructions appear. So that's the challenge that comes with spending a lot of money and building a top-heavy squad. I think the flip side with that will be Frank Lampard. I don't think he'll have any qualms or any worries about whether he can field a team that's got any firepower, because he should have plenty of goals, whatever combination he picks.
And Neil, I mentioned to you before the show that in Austin we have this contest every year where we pick the top 6 teams and the bottom 3 teams. So let's get you documented on what you think how the season is going to play out, and kind of give us what teams you think will 1 through 6, and then 18 through 20.
Okay, so I'll go top 6 first. So I think Liverpool. I'm going to say Liverpool will win the league again. I think it'll be closer than it was last season. I think it'll be Manchester City again that are closest to them. I think 3rd and 4th it'll be Manchester United and Chelsea. I think it'll probably be Chelsea 3rd, Manchester United 4th, and then 5th and 6th. I mean, I'm quietly impressed by Arsenal under Arteta, and maybe it's because they've managed to get the better Liverpool a couple of times in that. But I do think that he does look like he's got a bit of an idea, and he looks like he's got something about him. So I'll throw Arsenal into the mix for 5th, and then I'll probably have to say Tottenham for 6th. Although I think Harry Kane again is always the rub really with Tottenham, and if he's fit, then they'll score enough goals, they'll win enough games to finish in the top 6. But if he breaks down as he has tended to do over the last couple of seasons, then they might find it difficult. Mm-hmm. Everton and Leicester probably be best. Wolves maybe best place to challenge that, but I'll stick with the tried and trusted. I'll go Arsenal 5th and Tottenham 6th.
Okay.
Bottom three. Yeah, I think Fulham will finish. I think Fulham will be relegated. I don't see them making signings that look to me like they're building a team that's going to be able to stay up. And as much as Scott Parker has done a good job there, I know from a few Fulham fans that they weren't overly enthused by the way he played in certain times. So I think Fulham will do well to survive. The other ones, I mean, Crystal Palace haven't done a great deal of business, but if they were to lose Zaha, I would put them right down in the danger zone. Brighton have done pretty well, so I think you can put them in the safe category. Aston Villa just spent big on a centre forward, which could be make or break for them. If he scores goals, then they should be fine. But I think you're looking at Fulham. Who else came up? Leeds could go one of two ways, to be honest, but I think they'll probably be okay. And who was the other one that came up?
West Brom.
West Brom, yeah. So yeah, West Brom. I think they'll struggle. Yeah, West Brom will struggle. The one that I think you might just see a surprise drop off with might be Sheffield United, and I don't necessarily think they'll be relegation threatened, but when a team has a season like they had, and you sort of think, oh, what can they do now? And they go and spend a little bit of money, and they go and bring in a few players, and it's very, very hard to sustain it in the Premier League, especially. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them sort of down the bottom half of the table, certainly most of the season. But if you were asking me the bottom three, I'll throw Crystal Palace and the two promoted clubs, Fulham and West Brom. I think they might be the ones in danger.
Great, yeah. So our tiebreaker is who's going to get the golden boot? Our first tiebreaker.
Tough one, isn't it? It's tough one. Again, it's probably a bit who's going to play every game. So you wouldn't look further past someone like Aubameyang, really, because he is going to play pretty much every game. Whereas you may see a Salah or Mane, if Liverpool are in a decent position, you might see them dropping out. You would see Aguero maybe not playing the game. Kane might miss a few games. So yeah, I'll go for Aubameyang. Vardy won it last season, didn't he? Vardy took the golden boot. Yeah, I think Aubameyang would be the one I'd go for. He's penalty taker as well, isn't he, for them? So give him the one this time.
Well, you never know. Fernandes might get 30 penalties this season.
Yeah. Well, if it's most penalties, then yeah, I'll go for Fernandes.
Yeah, I don't think that's one of our tiebreakers. Sorry. Well, cool. That's your top six is pretty much what conventional wisdom is. Maybe a lot of people putting City above Liverpool and either one or two, but that's pretty much the way it ended up last year, and with the transfers coming in too. That people tend to forget just how many points Chelsea finished. 33 points behind Liverpool last year, right? So that's a lot to make up in one season. Yeah,
especially, they're still looking for a new goalkeeper, aren't they? I still don't think, they've bought Thiago Silva, who's a very experienced centre-back, but I don't think you're going to be changing your entire sort of defensive record based on 35, is it, Thiago Silva?
Yeah.
They look like they're going to sign a goalkeeper from Rennes, I think. Is it Edouard Mendy going to come in? But again, they've spent 4 times that on a goalkeeper that didn't work out for them, so there's no guarantee there either. I think they'll be an exciting side and they'll win a lot of games and they'll score a lot of goals, but I think the jury's still out on Chelsea's defensive side, and I think what Liverpool and City have shown in the past recent years, and Chelsea under Conte even before that, is that I think a lot of title success is built on being solid and being able to win games 1-0 as opposed to 5-3.
Yeah, I think Chelsea is going to be like what Liverpool was in 2014, score loads and loads of goals, but then ship a load of goals as well.
Yeah, possibly, or even even 3 years ago, Liverpool, before they bought Van Dijk and Alisson, they were such an exciting side to watch, and then there became the talk of, okay, well, they need a centre back, a dominant centre back. Then you needed a goalkeeper, which obviously mirrors a lot of Chelsea stuff, but also then you get the teams that don't want to play against Chelsea and sit deep and defend and challenge them to break them down, and you have to find a way around that. So I think it'll be interesting. I think Chelsea are probably the most interesting team going into the season outside of Liverpool. Obviously, from a personal point of view, outside of Liverpool, I'm most intrigued to see what sort of game Chelsea bring to the table. But I expect them to be top 4. For the money they've spent, if they're not, I think Lampard will probably be struggling for his job if Chelsea aren't in there, and I think they'll also be expecting a decent run in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how Thiago Silva does in this league because 4 years ago when he was available, I was like, man, let's get this guy. He'd be our center back, right? And so at this stage of his career, if he can handle the pace of the Premier League, it'd be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, he was outstanding. I watched one of the best defensive performances against Liverpool. Actually, was Thiago Silva in Paris in the 18-19 season. I thought he was outstanding. Him and Marquinhos, who played in there, were really, really good. So yeah, he's a top class player. Probably coming a couple of years too late. Let's hope he's from a Liverpool point of view. Let's hope he's a bit more Laurent Blanc than Gary McAllister.
What's your kind of prediction for Champions League as well? Obviously, we have to wait, for the draw. But pot 2 is going to be insane.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, I mean, it seems to get better. It just seems to get stronger and stronger every season, doesn't it? And I remember used to do a lot of stuff when I was at the Echo, coefficients and pots and that kind of thing, and Liverpool's nightmare draw and that kind of thing. But they don't. They don't really get many easy draws, do they? They don't. I can't recall ever seeing a Liverpool Champions League draw and thinking, oh, fair enough. Should be through in 4 games on that one. Last season, obviously, same again with Napoli, and bit of a bogey team for Liverpool, and they've been. Salzburg were a bit of an emerging side, when they came out of nowhere and surprised a few people, although they were picked apart quite brutally as the season went on. So it will be interesting. I think you have to look at the reigning champions Bayern Munich. You have to look at Manchester City. I mean, can they continue to miss the boat with the Champions League? They found new ways to not win. I mean, I was amazed. It absolutely amazed me that they never reached the final this year. It was staggering, and I think it reflects so poorly on Guardiola if they don't manage to rectify it this season. Then you've got, I don't necessarily see Barcelona really in the current state that they're in. Don't see them putting a challenge together. Real Madrid, not really. Juventus, I think maybe with Sarri, I don't see them. So I think you're looking at Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City. I would, if I was a betting man, I'd take the winner from one of those 4, personally.
Steve?
Sure. Last question before we close up for this morning. Do you think that Klopp will put any more emphasis on the domestic cups this year versus what he has traditionally in the past?
No, is the answer. The simple answer. I mean, I'm not saying he will. I mean, last year was a bit different in the sense that both exits from the cup were really influenced by. One was by obviously the Club World Cup in December in the Carabao, and then they were obviously willing to play the kids in the fourth round against Shrewsbury because of the winter break and the way that fell. Maybe it won't be quite as dramatic as that, but I don't see a scenario given the workload of Liverpool's players this year and the amount of midweek games they're going to have and the amount of a tournament coming up at the end of the season in the Euros and then the African nations after that, the World Cup coming up a year later. I can't foresee a scenario where Jurgen Klopp thinks, do you know what, let's just go all out for the FA Cup, unless Liverpool are 13th in the Premier League table and nothing to play for, and what's going to rescue the season, an FA Cup win. But no, I don't foresee it. I think it will be similar policy to recent seasons, maybe not as extreme as last season when we had Liam Miller and Tony Gallagher and James Norris and all these kids that will probably only ever play 1 game for Liverpool, first team playing. But I think it will certainly be a mix and match policy with fringe players and young players.
Mm-hmm. So just like with the FSG and the transfers, there's a precedence. So don't be surprised when it happens like that. I always tell people, don't be surprised that it's not being taken more seriously, because this has been the track record of Klopp. Just like the transfers, don't be surprised that we're selling a person to get a player in. So you should know the history by now of these things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And first couple of seasons, first half season, and then his first full season, Jurgen reached the final of the League Cup and the semi-final, and he did try and win it, and I think he was left stunned by the amount of games that I remember him referring to as a 2-legged semi-final. Just he was incredulous. He couldn't believe that the League Cup semi-final would be played over 2 legs, and that there was FA Cup replays and things like that. Obviously, that is gone now in terms of they've made steps to shorten the amount of games. But at the same time, if Liverpool are playing a game on a Premier League game on a Saturday away at West Ham, and then they've got another game at home to Tottenham on the following Saturday, and they've got a midweek game in the Carabao Cup. What would it gain for Liverpool from playing Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk and Alisson and Trent Alexander-Arnold? At some point he's gonna have to dip into his squad and play these players, Nico Williams and Costas Tsimikas and whoever else. So I don't think. I mean, there will be some hand wringing. I'm sure there will be some fans saying, "Oh, he's disrespecting the FA Cup and he's doing this." But every manager pretty much does it, and those that don't are the ones that happen to have a blank check that they can write and bring in whoever they want to go on the bench and against Burton Albion or whoever.
Yeah, they always seem to get City. Always seems to get the easiest draw. I don't know how that happens every single year.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, even they struggled last season, and they've only won the League Cup. They would, that even a side as strong as City can lose games with almost your first choice side. So you have to weigh up the risks. And if Liverpool are going for the league and the Champions League, which are always going to be the priorities of the club, then something has to give elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. And one last question: any update on Tsimikas? If he's, what his status is?
Yeah, no, not to be honest. I have to admit, I wasn't on top of it over the weekend. I wasn't working, but there was a rumor. Obviously, the rumor that he struck down in international duty. I mean, I don't think he wouldn't have started anyway against Leeds. I don't think he probably would have been on the bench even because a specialist left back.
Mm-hmm.
With if Milner's in the squad, then you don't really need it. You don't need it. He's one who's either going to start or not be in the squad. I think a bit like Robertson was when he first came. Moreno was starting, and you didn't see Robertson in the matchday squad for a few months unless he was actually in the team. I think that will be the same. I think it'll be a gradual introduction for him. But what I would say is, the couple of games I saw, he did look like he had a lot of Robertson tendencies about him, which is always promising when you're buying an understudy. You want to see him look, in tune with what the first team's going to be doing. So hopefully he can have the same kind of impact as Robertson had.
Well, Neil, really appreciate you coming back on. Hopefully, you'll come back on again, maybe, December, halfway through, and see where we're at. Hopefully, we're 50 points clear.
There'll still be people complaining, don't worry. Why isn't it 52?
Yeah.
But you can get me on at Christmas and we'll have a laugh at my predictions when West Brom are in the Champions League places and Tottenham are down the bottom three.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll play. I have a Crimbo CD that I'll play for you from Paul Tremarco from the Arcos. We'll have that as our theme music in the background while we're talking footy. Well, Neil, I appreciate you coming on, man.
No problem.
The beginning of the season is always exciting, and can't wait till Saturday morning for us, to watch the match and have a couple of bevies before the game and just get it going again.
What will you guys be watching it? What will be your setup for that then?
I don't know yet. I mean, I know that the pub is open at 50% capacity. They've done a really good job about following all the protocols.
Yeah.
And I went over there yesterday just to check the setup, and they have the table spaced out, and they're going to be open. We don't mandate anybody go there, but it's an option if people are depending on their comfort level. So well, hopefully something good to cheer about anyway with the 3 points to start the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll be sat in front of the home telly.
Yeah.
Keep it safe.
Keep it safe. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, I appreciate it, Neil. Until next time, be safe and keep writing amazing articles.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Neil.
Cheers.
Cheers.